I'm joined now from Boston by John Park. He is the director of the Korea Working Group at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Thanks so much for joining us. There's a report out in the Washington Post that the DPRK is reaching out to Republican analysts to better understand Donald Trump's conflicting messages. And one of the people quoted in the story says their number one concern is Trump. They can't figure him out. This president likes being unpredictable, but is this a good thing when it comes to a war of words with another country?
Well, it's somewhat unprecedented, Mike. We haven't had this type of direct leader-to-leadership exchange of words. And on the U.S. side, it's over the Twitter sphere. So in that respect, when you have that kind of rapid turnaround in terms of a statement, a reaction, another statement, it is leaving a lot of the analysts scrambling to see if it's connected to some kind of policy or if it's a one-off. And I think it's that confusion on the North Korean side that they're trying to piece together what kind of logic and what kind of connecting of the dots may be there.
And the foreign minister is saying that the U.S. has declared war on the DPRK. Is that a ploy, or does this point to this story that they really simply can't figure out what's coming out? I mean, there's different messages, a lot of conflicting messages.
Well, I think what we heard from Foreign Minister Young-ho was this paraphrasing of what President Trump had tweeted and interpreting that as a declaration of war on North Korea. But in terms of the elevation of tensions in the region, we had over the weekend a flight of U.S. bombers and fighters, and the North Korean reaction to that was that they would, in the future, if there were another flight like that, they would look to intercept. And so the stakes are getting higher, and in terms of diplomatic off-ramps and other things, we're just not seeing them right now.
Well, and to your point, I was just reading U.S. diplomat, North Korea expert Joseph Thomas writing this blog post. Trump's comments may have closed any remaining doors to a quick diplomatic resolution to the standoff. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, we've seen some statements officially coming out of the U.S. government and the White House saying that diplomacy is still on the table. In fact, Secretary of Defense Mattis recently just stated also that diplomacy is the preferred way. But we're also seeing paired with that a lot of these type of statements where the sense of deterrence, the strong defense, the strong posture, strong capabilities is repeated by both sides. And that's the part where when you look at that exchange of words and looking at the threats and the countermeasures, that's where we worry that the likelihood of this diplomatic off-ramp, the probability of it reduces dramatically.
And Wang Yi at the UN last week saying, lower the temperature, basically, to both sides. Talk to me about China's role in trying to diffuse this. We know that President Xi's spoken to President Trump a lot. He's also spoken to other leaders. China trying to intervene in this role. Obviously, they've got a lot at stake here. This is a neighboring country.
Yeah, right. China, in two key areas, has been very consistent. One is advocating what's called the freeze for freeze. North Korea would freeze its nuclear weapons, ballistic missile testing. In return, the United States and South Korea would freeze military exercises. The second area, China has been fairly consistent now in implementing UN Security Council resolutions. And those are the two areas that we've just most recently also heard President Trump applauding the Chinese efforts in implementing sanctions. Most recently, the Chinese central bank messaging to other banking institutions in China to close accounts with North Korean individuals and entities. So those are the two areas, but as the tensions ratchet up, I think these type of Chinese statements cautioning more escalation